Right, settle in with your morning brew because we're about to serve up the most delicious political storm brewing in Westminster today. While you were probably sleeping off last night's questionable life choices, Nigel Farage and Lee Anderson were absolutely tearing strips off Yvette Cooper faster than a bargain hunter at a Boxing Day sale. And honestly, after what's just happened with the Manchester Airport verdict, you might actually agree with them for once. I know, check your pulse, but stick with me here because this story has more twists than a thriller written by someone who's clearly never left their bedroom. So picture this, it's Wednesday at Liverpool Crown Court, the kind of place where justice supposedly gets served colder than your nan's Sunday roast. Mohammed Fahir Mars, the charming 20-year-old who thought punching police officers in the face was an acceptable Tuesday activity, finally gets his day in court. And surprise, surprise, he's found guilty of assaulting PC Lydia Ward, breaking her nose in the process, and also having a go at PC Ellie Cook. Shocking, I know. Who could have possibly seen that coming from the bloke who also decided to headbutt a random customer at Starbucks? Because nothing says I'm having a normal day like violently assaulting someone over an overpriced latte. But here's where it gets absolutely mental, and I mean proper bonkers. Remember when this whole Manchester Airport incident kicked off last July? Remember how Labour MPs were practically queuing up like it was the January sales to condemn the police? Well, now that we've got a guilty verdict proving the officers were actually the victims here, those same MPs are quieter than a library full of mime artists. It's almost like they jumped to conclusions faster than a kangaroo on Red Bull without bothering to wait for, actual facts. Now Nigel Farage, bless his perpetually outraged soul, has decided this is the perfect moment to resurrect his favourite phrase, to tire justice. And honestly, for once, you might actually see his point. Speaking on LBC this morning, Farage laid it out cleaner than a professional window cleaner. This incident happens at Manchester Airport, and months go by. Southport happens, and a woman with a previously wonderful record within days is in court and gets 31 months in prison. The man's got a point sharper than a Gordon Ramsay insult. The timeline here is more skewed than a funhouse mirror. Think about it like this, imagine you're at school, and one kid throws a paper airplane that hits the teacher. That kid gets detention for a week. But then another kid does the exact same thing the next day and gets expelled immediately. You'd be scratching your head wondering what cosmic force decided that identical actions deserved completely different punishments, right? That's essentially what Farage is arguing here, except instead of paper airplanes, we're talking about serious criminal incidents. But wait, there's more, because Lee Anderson, Reform's answer to a human foghorn, has decided subtle isn't really his style. The man's come out swinging like a prizefighter who's had one too many energy drinks, telling the Express that Yvette Cooper should be sacked as Home Secretary for being useless. Now that's what I call cutting straight to the chase. No beating around the bush, no diplomatic language, just pure, unfiltered political brutality. It's like watching someone use a sledgehammer to crack a nut, except the nut is the Home Secretary's career prospects. Here's where it gets particularly spicy, though. Cast your minds back to when this Manchester Airport footage first emerged. The initial video, which spread faster than gossip in a small town, showed police officers using what appeared to be excessive force. But here's the crucial bit that everyone seemed to conveniently forget, the footage didn't show the bit where these officers had just been violently assaulted. It's like showing someone the end of a fight without the beginning and then acting shocked when the person defending themselves looks like the aggressor. Labour MPs practically trampled each other rushing to microphones to condemn the police. Paul Waugh, Rochdale's MP, called the footage shocking and disturbing. Lucy Powell said it was truly shocking and demanded police refer themselves to the IOPC. Blackburn's Adnan Hussain went full drama queen, calling it a complete abuse of power. Meanwhile, Afzal Khan was demanding a meaningful assurances about what he termed excessive force against an unarmed civilian. Unarmed civilian? The man had just finished using his fists as weapons against police officers' faces. That's like calling a sword unarmed because it's not a gun. The irony here is thicker than clotted cream on a Devon scone. These MPs were falling over themselves to criticise police officers who, as it turns out, were the actual victims in this scenario. It's like watching people criticize a bouncer for being too rough with someone, only to later discover that someone had just glassed 3 people and was swinging a pool cue around like a medieval mace. And let's talk about Yvette Cooper's response at the time, shall we? The Home Secretary, who should theoretically be supporting her officers, said, "It is essential the police have the trust of the communities and the public rightly expect high standards from those in charge of keeping us safe." Now, on the surface, that sounds reasonable, diplomatic even. But when you consider the context, when her officers were the ones who'd been assaulted, it reads more like throwing them under the bus faster than a London transport worker during rush hour. Farage seized on this like a bargain hunter spotting a half-price designer handbag, arguing that Cooper's comments show exactly why Britain is facing allegations of two-tier justice. And when asked if Cooper's response was a grave misstep, Farage agreed faster than a head teacher agreeing to a snow day. He connected this to the broader pattern of how different incidents are handled differently, saying, "If you put this together with what happened at Southport and the reactions to both and what was said by both, you can really understand how two-tier Keir has really taken off." Now, let's break down what actually happened at Manchester Airport, because the details matter more than the ingredients in your nan's secret recipe. Mohammed Fahi Amars wasn't just having a bad day. This wasn't some unfortunate misunderstanding or a cultural miscommunication. The prosecution laid out a timeline of violence that reads like a masterclass in how not to behave in public spaces. It started at Starbucks in Terminal 2, because of course it did. Where else would a modern British drama begin? Amars allegedly headbutted customer Abdul Karim Ismail, probably over something absolutely crucial like queue jumping or complaining about the Wi-Fi. Security called the police, who tracked him down to a car park ticket machine. Now, here's where a normal person might think, "Oh, police officers approaching me after I've just assaulted someone. Perhaps I should cooperate and explain myself like a reasonable human being." But Amars, clearly operating on a different level of logic, decided the appropriate response was to resist arrest. And when PC Lydia Ward and PC Ellie Cook tried to do their jobs, he floored Ward with a punch that broke her nose and knocked Cook to the ground. Because nothing says I'm innocent like punching police officers in the face. His brother, Mohammed Ahmad, then decided to join the fun, because why should Fahi have all the excitement? The prosecution described their actions as inflicting a high level of violence on Greater Manchester police officers. These weren't gentle nudges or accidental bumps. We're talking about the kind of violence that leaves officers with broken bones and bruises. Yet somehow, when the inevitable police response came, Labour MPs were queuing up to condemn the officers faster than tourists queuing for the London Eye. Here's what makes this whole situation particularly maddening: the jury took 10 hours to deliberate. 10 hours! They examined every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every angle of footage. They heard from both sides, weighed up the facts, and concluded that yes, Amars was guilty of assaulting these officers. Yet back in July, based on partial footage and incomplete information, Labour MPs were ready to throw these same officers under the bus faster than you can say trial by social media. The contrast with how other incidents have been handled is stark enough to blind a pilot. After the Southport incident, people were in court within days, sentenced within weeks. The justice system moved with the efficiency of a German train service. But when it comes to the Manchester Airport case, officers are still under investigation by the IOPC months later. It's like having two different justice systems operating in the same country, one for some people and another for others. This isn't just about political point scoring, though that's obviously happening faster than a Twitter argument about pineapple on pizza. This is about fundamental questions of how justice is administered in Britain. Are we operating one system for everyone, or do different rules apply depending on who you are and what narrative fits the current political climate? Farage's two-tier Keir nickname might sound like playground politics, but it's clearly resonating with people who see these disparities in how incidents are handled. When the same political party that rushes to condemn police officers based on partial footage takes months to reach conclusions about clear-cut cases of violence against those same officers, you can understand why people might feel the system isn't exactly balanced. The really tragic part of all this is what it means for police officers on the ground. Imagine being PC Lydia Ward, going to work, doing your job, getting punched in the face hard enough to break your nose, and then watching MPs line up to criticise your colleagues for their response. Imagine being PC Ellie Cook, knocked to the ground by someone you're trying to arrest, then seeing politicians demand investigations into whether your colleagues used excessive force in subduing your attacker. These officers didn't wake up that morning planning to get into a violent confrontation. They responded to a report of assault, tried to arrest the perpetrator, got violently attacked themselves, and then found themselves under more scrutiny than the person who actually broke one of their noses. It's like blaming firefighters for getting wet while putting out a fire. The broader implications here stretch beyond just this one incident. When politicians rush to judgment based on incomplete information, when they prioritize political optics over supporting their own police force, when justice moves at different speeds for different people, it undermines public confidence in the entire system. And once that confidence is lost, it's harder to rebuild than a relationship after someone's eaten your last chocolate biscuit. What we're seeing here is the collision between social media-driven outrage culture and the slower, more methodical pace of actual justice. The footage went viral, the outrage followed, the politicians responded to the outrage, and everyone forgot to wait for the actual facts. It's like making a judgment about a movie based solely on the trailer, except the stakes are considerably higher than whether you waste 2 hours and a tenner. The verdict this week should serve as a reminder that jumping to conclusions based on partial information is about as wise as using a chocolate teapot. The justice system, for all its flaws, actually requires things like evidence, witness testimony, and proper legal process. Revolutionary concept, I know. But here's the thing that really gets under people's skin: the same MPs who were so quick to condemn the police based on incomplete footage have been notably quiet since the guilty verdict came in. Where are the statements acknowledging they might have been hasty? Where are the apologies to the officers they hung out to dry? The silence is louder than a rock concert in a library. This isn't about defending police brutality or saying officers should never be held accountable. Of course they should be. But accountability works both ways. If we expect high standards from our police officers, we should probably expect equally high standards from our elected representatives. That includes waiting for facts before rushing to judgment and having the integrity to admit when they've got things wrong. The Manchester Airport incident has become a perfect case study in how not to handle a complex situation. Rush to judgment, prioritize political positioning over facts, throw people under the bus based on incomplete information, then go quiet when the actual truth emerges. It's like a masterclass in political cowardice dressed up as moral outrage. As for where this leaves Yvette Cooper, well, she's finding herself in the political equivalent of quicksand. The more she struggles to justify her previous comments, the deeper she sinks. Farage and Anderson are circling like sharks who've smelled blood in the water, and honestly, can you blame them? When your political opponents hand you ammunition this perfect, you'd be mad not to use it. The two-tier justice narrative isn't going away anytime soon, and incidents like this just add fuel to that fire. When people see such obvious disparities in how similar situations are handled, when they watch politicians rush to condemn some people while protecting others, it feeds into broader concerns about fairness and equality before the law. So there you have it, your daily dose of political chaos served up hotter than a fresh cup of controversy. Nigel Farage is demanding answers, Lee Anderson wants heads to roll, and Yvette Cooper is probably wishing she'd chosen a different career path. Meanwhile, the police officers who were actually assaulted are still waiting for justice to run its course. The Manchester Airport verdict should have been a moment for reflection, for politicians to acknowledge they got it wrong, for some humble pie to be served alongside the morning tea. Instead, it's become another stick to beat the government with, another example of how quickly political narratives can crumble when they meet actual facts. What do you think? Are we really seeing two-tier justice in action, or is this just politics as usual? Have Labour MPs learned anything from jumping to conclusions, or will they do exactly the same thing next time a controversial video goes viral? And should Yvette Cooper be packing her bags, or is this all just political theatre? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because honestly, this story has more layers than a championship trifle, and I want to know which layer you think tastes the most bitter. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more daily doses of political chaos delivered faster than a pizza in Naples, and hit that notification bell because trust me, in British politics, there's always another scandal brewing just around the corner. Until next time, keep your coffee strong and your skepticism stronger.